Train to failure or stopping short of failure. They both have value, but which one's better? Watch this.
Our first caller is Bruce from Texas.
Bruce, what's happening? How can we help you?
Hey guys, how are y'all?
Good.
What's up, Bruce?
Good. Well, thanks for having me on. Big fan of the show and worked through a few of the programs before the map stuff. And just for everybody listening, it's legit. It works. Don't overthink it. Just follow the programming. And I think from listening to you guys now for a few years, you start to get the wisdom behind how you guys have set the things up. So
Thank you.
Thank you,
Awesome,
Bruce. We'll
man.
send you your check next week.
Yeah,
yeah,
let's go on Instagram.
Discount
right
code
now.
Bruce.
full endorsement. Yeah. Full endorsement.
Yeah.
So my question is this. It seems like lately you guys had just happened to comment lately on training to failure a few times. And my question is, just for us regular folks, if y'all can just kind of talk about the difference between, and really just practically, like, how does it feel when you're in the workout, the difference between training to failure as opposed to, just regular progressive overload, trying to push a little bit more, maybe a little bit more weight this week, but I'm failing, on that last rep of the second set, and I'm failing as in I can't, lift it all the way the last few reps of the third set, and so because I understand your guys' kind of advice on training to failure is it could be beneficial, but certainly not the centerpiece. And so just for regular guy going through his regular every week workouts, how can I know that I'm just pushing myself, but I'm not inadvertently falling over into training to failure, which, as I understand it, if that's too much of what you're doing, it can actually be detrimental.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah. So, all right, let's talk about progressive overload first. So,
And the difference between that and failure.
So progressive overload just means you're doing a little bit more over time, and the time scale can be quite long. I think when you first start out, it's very easy to look at progressive overload and apply it to every workout. So like this workout, a little more than last workout, next workout, a little more than this workout. So it's not just weight. It could be reps. It could be sets. So you can progressively overload.
Could even be tempo.
Yeah. You just you're basically doing a little more than you were before. And over long periods of time, especially as you become advanced, you want to kind of trend in that direction. However, it has its limitations. You can't progressively overload forever. Obviously. I've been working out since I was 14. So at this point, my workouts should be 10 hours long with, I'd be lifting thousands of pounds. Yeah. It's very good metric to look at, especially in the first 2 or 3 years of training. After that, I wouldn't necessarily marry it because things start to change after a particular period of time. But within the first 3 years, it's very important. Failure, as we define it, is the inability to complete another rep with good form.
Technical failure.
Right. So you're lifting a weight, you can't lift it again with good form, so you fail. Now, some people define failure as not even be able to move the bar. I think that's beyond failure. I also think that the risk versus reward with that is just not worth it. I don't think you're going to get more of a reward. All you're doing is increasing the risk of injury and or training bad recruitment patterns. What you train is what you end up developing. So if you work out with a particular technique or form that's off of what would be considered ideal, well, that's what you end up strengthening. So we don't recommend that as well. Now, leaving 1 or 2 in the tank. Okay, so this is a feel thing. This means that you need to kind of know what it feels like to fail. And to be quite honest, a lot of the benefit of occasionally training to failure for the average person, I say occasional, I mean really occasionally, like, 1 workout a month to see what this looks like, is it gives you a good basis for where failure is. Because what typically will happen when someone's been working out for a while, if they've never gone to technical failure, especially for a tough exercise like a squat or an overhead press or something like that, is that they think that they're stopping 2 reps short of failure when in reality it was more like 5 or 6. And if you've ever done barbell squats to failure, you know this. It's like you do a rep, and you're like, oh my God, that's got to be the last one. Then you do another one, you're like, okay, I think I got more. And it's just so painful and so tiring and so exhausting that we tend to, not predict accurately where failure is. So going to failure one of the big values of it is where to stop your sets moving forward.
I'd say that's the main value.
That's the bigger value.
Is really getting a gauge of that, because I think if you've never trained to failure, the thing that you tend to underestimate what you got left, especially in exercises like a barbell back squat or a deadlift. I feel like those big movements, we end up getting more out. But you could train forever, Bruce, and never actually go to mechanical failure and still continue to progress the body.
Yeah.
So
it's not necessary.
And I think, especially when I'm talking to my male clients, we tend to flirt with that too much. My female clients tend to never do it, and I got to kind of push them to want to do it. My guys tend to want to do it all the time because we kind of have that ego inside of us. I could do more. I could do more. And so you're constantly doing that. But if you're doing any reps where, especially let's use like a bench press for an example, and and to get it up, you feel yourself rolling the shoulder or arching the back more to leverage yourself to get up. Like you're beyond, to me, that's beyond failure. I want to be able to keep strict good form and finish a rep. And honestly, if you could barely finish that last rep, that's pretty close to failure right there already. And so getting those in there every once in a while, there's value to that. But if you're having to squirm on the bench or cheat a side up, or you do a squat and the knees cave in, you feel your hips shift on the way up, like we're training beyond that point. And like I think a lot of people tend to do that and it's just not necessary.
Yeah. The three big factors that you manipulate, because we could break these three factors down into subcategories and we can get real technical, but really generally speaking, the three factors that you manipulate to progress your body when it comes to strength training in particular is intensity, frequency, and volume. Okay, so intensity is how hard the workout is. Frequency is how often you train a particular body part or exercise. And then volume would be typically, and there's different ways to calculate this, but typically it would be, sets times reps times the weight that you lifted. And all of those play a role. I mean, there's, 15-week studies on going to failure doing one set that show great results. There's another study that shows that ramping up the volume over 16 weeks up to something like 50 sets, this just came out, something like up to 50 sets per body part produced better results in that 16-week period. There's, studies that show training extremely frequently produces better results. One thing I'll say about all of these is that if you extend all these studies long enough, they'll all stop working. So really what you want to do is you want to play with these factors, and it's a risk versus reward thing. What's working for my body? How is my body responding? It stopped responding. Let's try some novelty. But I will say for most people, not training to failure is going to get you better results. And for most people, training the whole body a few days a week is superior to other ways. And then for most people, your total sets per body part probably are going to be around 12 for the week, and that's probably going to be best for most people.
Yeah, I'd say the exception really only is competition. So if you're actually like a competitor within, barbell lifts, you're power lifter, or you're trying to hit like a new level where you're stretching your body in terms of like, even if I'm training somebody through like football and we're trying to increase and to press and go a little bit beyond the healthy zone. So here's the thing about that. There are times, where we press our body beyond the health range of what we're normally training. So, but to their points, it's for your average person and you're just trying to get stronger, you can continually get stronger by not exceeding that. So knowing that line's valuable, but really like there is no real like solid reason why you should press it to that degree.
Bruce, what programs of ours have you gone through?
A few of them. I've done anabolic, aesthetic, which that one was tough. And then the 15 minutes one, I did that when I had a really busy season at work, which that was interesting. And then I was just kind of going back through anabolic again, just, as everybody always says, it's the first one everybody does, and you saw all the great results. So I kind of delved back into that one. And that's why I was, was in that phase 3, where there's a lot more volume. So that's why I had this question. And so it sounds like you guys are, is it correct to that you're saying like kind of your sweet spot is knowing yourself to know like, okay, this last rep that I did is the one I did with proper form, and if I were to do another one, I'm likely going to break down.
Right.
Yes, and cheat the rep. Even if you could get it up, if you got to cheat the rep, then we would consider that beyond failure right there. You know what, Bruce? Let me send. Let me give you the advanced maps anabolic, so you can actually see how we program failure in. So that program has.
That's the only one
that's the only program that we actually programmed.
Also
failure
accounts for the recovery that's necessary.
And so the other part about the another reason why we don't promote failure training that often to people isn't necessarily too that it doesn't have its studies that support the great benefits. It's that people take it always too far, and you need to account for when you stretch yourself like that. You also need to learn how to pull back. Yeah. So in that program, we scale that. So you have a week where you're chasing failure training, and then you scale back, and then you're chasing failure. And so you can see, like, especially since how you started this conversation was from listening to us over time, you're starting to piece together like, okay, I'm getting the wisdom behind why they do what they do. A guy like you who's already piecing that together with us, if you go through that program, it'll probably make sense to you, like how you do that for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it.
You got it, man. Sure. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Bruce.
Appreciate it, Bruce.
Thanks, guys.
You got it. Yeah. I think if most people, I've been trying to kind of, I guess, hone this message, but I think if most people who are consistent, right, who train year in, year out, I think if 1/4 of the time they trained like they were pushing to progress, and the other 3/4 they were just trying to take care of themselves and maintain, I think if they did that year round, they'd be okay. And what that would look like would be like, 3 months out of the year, you're going for it, or every quarter, 4 weeks or something like that, right? So something like that, I think, is because here's what happens when you push it really hard, you do get faster results, but you will quickly stop and go backwards if you don't go back and scale back. And I think that 1/4 is probably a good general way to look at it.
Yeah, and I think people will have a misconception that we're not like really pressing the intensity, which is not true. Like that's not what we're saying at all. It's a matter of effort, and you can place a lot of that effort and challenge within the confines of doing it technically sound. And so that's actually a lot more difficult because, you rely a lot of times on momentum in your body to kind of contort and be able to compensate to be able to get the weight to go where it needs to go. But to do that with sound technical form is much more challenging.
Listen, I love that we don't push failure, because you can, to your point that you made talking to him, that you could never train to failure, and you could sculpt, shape, get stronger. You could do everything and never train to failure. Does that mean that we don't think there's value to it? No, I just think that the message is the opposite in the space. The reason why we get questions like this all the time still, and why we're constantly having to repeat this stuff, is because the general population is being told that they don't train intense enough, and intensity is such a major factor in their results, and you got to push harder. And then all the videos that you see are these videos of people struggling and challenging and pushing that intensity. And so the mainstream narrative around training is most people, the reason why you don't look that way is you don't train hard enough. And so that's not true. And I think that I like that we counter that message. It's not that none of us in here train to failure. We don't use that tool. We have a program where we've programmed it in there. It's just, it's not the end all be all. And in fact, I think most people overuse it and abuse it. So I
look, do you want to train hard, or do you want to get the best results? I mean, if you just want to train hard, then turn off this podcast. You don't need anybody's advice. Go to the gym and go for it.
Bang your head on the wall.
If you want results, there's a smart way to do it. That's all it is. And there's the smart way to do it uses and manipulates those factors and ways to get the body, to goad the body to adapt and respond. This whole idea of forcing the body and what that paints in our minds, which is I got to beat the crap out of myself. Otherwise nothing's going to happen. Nothing will happen if that's your mentality.
Did you say goad?
Yep.
Great verb there.